Hi doctors, welcome you all for this training program. We are going to focus on ISO 14001 and ISO 45001 during the next few minutes. You might be wondering who I am. My name is Panchabagesan. I am basically a mechanical engineer, a safety engineer, and environmental engineer. I have done specialization in these standards. I am actually a lead auditor for ISO 14001 as well as ISO 45001. You may be thinking, what is this lead auditor? So, these standards are being implemented in industries. So, they need to be verified, they need to be certified, for which an auditing course is there. That course has got internal auditors, then lead auditors. It is a 5-day program, and then at the end of it, there will be an examination, and you have to pass that. That is how one becomes lead auditor for these standards. Okay, now you may be thinking, what is this ISO? Some figures 14001, 2015, and ISO 45001, 2018. So it's all basically from International Standards Organization. We have International Standards Organization in Geneva. They publish these standards. They publish means they don't publish just like that. All member countries sit together and then they prepare draft, and then the draft undergoes various changes, and then finally it gets published. So we are also member of that International Standards Organization, and then we have adopted this standard in our country also. Okay, now you may be thinking, what is this 14001? They give a random number. This kind of 14,000 and 45,000 is to enable easy remembering of that number. They give in a serial number only, but sometimes they give this kind of special numbers so that people can easily remember those standards easily. Then you may be thinking, what is this 2015? Actually, this ISO 14001 standard was originally published in 1996, and then it underwent some changes during the year 2004 and subsequently in the year 2015. So these standards, they revise once in a while, maybe after 5 years, after 10 years. So once they revise it and then they publish the new version of the standard, then they give the year when it was published. ISO 45001 actually is a relatively new standard. This is the first time it got published. So it got published in the year 2018. Okay, let us go to the next slide. So all these things evolve around business process. You have business, you have supplier, you have customer, you have process, and then in between you have management and governing process, and then support and enabling process. These things, everything put together forms the business. And in the business, there are 3 pillars of sustainable governance. The first one is called social, the second one is called economic, and the third one is called environmental. These 3 pillars, actually, now you would have heard about ESG and those things. So these are all forming part of those things. Okay, now why we need all these management system standards? So we do something. Actually, company means they manufacture something, they produce something, they pack it, and then they send it to the customer. So it's a process. This process needs to be verified, or it needs to be standardized. How to standardize? There are these standards help in standardizing. So for example, we have got ISO 9000. ISO 9000 mainly focuses on quality. That gives how a process can be done in quality way. Similarly, ISO 14001 focuses on environment. When you do something, how you do it environmentally safe way. Similarly, ISO 45001 focuses on occupational health and safety. So when you do something, when you manufacture something in a factory, how to do that in a safe way. So these standards help, these standards actually help in doing all these things in a standardized way. So they are called process enablers. and it gives a common management framework. So it actually, if you look at the standard, it gives a common a policy, a set of activities, how it has to be done, then a kind of procedures, legal compliance, and then continual improvement. So you need to regularly improve your process. So it evolves around PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act. That is how this all these management standards evolve. So it gives you a common broad understanding. So you go to any ISO certified factory like ISO 9000 or ISO 14000 or ISO 45000, they have a common standard procedure which will be easily understandable, which is easily implementable, and which is a standardized way of doing things. When you do a thing in a standardized way, the success rate is very high. Then it facilitates streamlining business processes. So your business process needs to be streamlined. It has to follow in a one common path. You cannot do every day in a different way. So one day we'll manufacture like this, the second day we'll do like this. Then your product quality or the environment in which your plant is located or the safety of your workman will be at difficult times. So we need to have all these process enablers, common management framework, and then it facilitates streamlining business process. In that way, your management system standards helps a lot. Yeah, this gives furthermore input why we need. As I told you already, now you can see in the slide ISO 9001 QMS. QMS is nothing but quality management system. And then again you have on the other side risk. Risk covers under ISO 45001, that is OHSMS, Occupational Health and Safety Management System. So that covers under risk. The third one is sustainability. So we need to give back the earth the way we came here, and it should be useful for the next generations. So for that we need to have a sustainability. We should sustain. So every day we see the earth is degrading. Every day we are polluting. There is a way to stop it. There is a way you need to sustain it, so that the next generation also reaps the benefits like how we reaped. So for that only your ISO 14001 comes. 14001 is nothing but environmental management system. So these things form the base for this social, economic, and I told you, those pillars, these things support and then they take care. So the three commonalities of MSS, that is, you have a good process approach. It is performance driven. As I told you, the performance, it's a continuous performance and improvement. These are all the main objective of these kind of standards. They always focus on improvement, they always focus on performance, and then they focus on a standardized process approach. So these are all the things that helps the company, the management, to reach a better goal. As I already told you, this is the process approach. You have this input. So what are the materials? Why we are buying materials, or we dig metal from earth? What are the way? So we take the material and then we process it, and then we give output to the customer the way customer wants, and then the feedback is given to the input. So the customer, the output, there may be some improvements needed. That feedback is given to the input. Then that cycle goes on like that, which we call it as PDCA cycle. Is a Dr. Deming, who actually from Japan invented this PDCA cycle. That is, you do something, you plan something, execute it, and then you verify. So whether you have done actually the way you intended it, and then you act based on that. Suppose while you check it, you find it some abnormalities, some defects. So for example, we are manufacturing a product. The product output has got some quality defect. Again, you act on it, improve the quality. How to improve it? So again, you make further planning. Similarly, for environment, say when you manufacture planning, there is lot of emissions, lot of smoke coming out of it, or lot of pollution, your land is getting contaminated, your water is getting polluted. Check it, why it is contaminated, whether we can replace with the environment friendly material, whether we can modify the process so that that particular chemical or particular emission is totally eliminated. So you can act on it, then you do the planning, then do the activity, then check. This is a cycle. This goes on. This goes on forever, so that you have continual improvement in your process. So now we know we have already heard about this ISO 14001 few times. So now we clearly know why it is. ISO 14001, that is our 2015 version, focuses on enhancing environmental performance. So it enhances actually this kind of standards. It is not only following. While following, you at the end of the day you will feel that you are one step ahead. Similarly, ISO 45001 2018 focuses on enhancing OHS performance. OHS is nothing but occupational health and safety performance. So these things actually put together improve a lot on the company's performance. So over a period of time, now you see in the earlier days of in the 1900s and all, it was mainly focused on production. We only want number of items. Then slowly people started looking at quality. Then next comes, then people started, why the factory is so much of polluting. People started hating such factories, and then there were demonstrations. People wanted to close such factories, and so they wanted to now check the environment. And similarly, when somebody is going inside the factory, he wants to come back with the same way he goes in, with all his limbs, his hands, fingers, his eyes, ears, everything is intact. So if you go there and then if the person gets injured or gets killed, again there seems to be a lot of issues, and now lot of regulations also coming into place in those scenarios. Okay, now let us understand further about this standard and how it improves. See, the improvement actually it includes correction. Correction means something happens and we immediately correct it. Say for example, there is oil leakage. We correct that oil leakage. That's what is called correction. What is corrective action then? Corrective action is we look into it, why that oil is leaking. Maybe something is loose. We tighten that. So that means then we take the corrective action. Then what is continuous improvement? Why should at all there be an oil line there? Either we reroute the oil line so that the oil leak is totally eliminated, or we avoid that oil itself. So those kind of activities will look into continuous improvement. Then breakthrough change, you change the total process. There is no oil, there is no nothing. So that is a breakthrough change. Innovation, the entire thing is totally changed. That is innovation. Then reorganization, including mergers and acquisitions. Those things also is one of the improvement that nowadays happening. These are all the various improvement activities happening. Okay, now we talked about all these standards. So I told you that International Standards Organization publishes these standards. How it publishes, from where all these inputs they are getting, how it got evolved. So basically, this environmental management system, we call it as EMS. It started from British standard. There was one British standard called 7750. Then in the year 1994 it was there. Then the first edition, as I told you, it was published in the year 1996 after undergoing various drafts, and then there's one called FD, final draft. So everything got published, and then finally we got the first edition in the year 1996. Then again from the year 2000 2 onwards they started discussing about bringing in some more changes, and then the second edition got published in the year 2004, and then the third edition actually got published in the year 2015. Actually it was to have published by 2012 or 2013, but somehow it got delayed due to various iterations from the ILO. They wanted to standardize, in fact standards also wanted to standardize the standards. Each standard had a different type of classes. Then they wanted to bring uniformity in standard so that the readability is good, the applicability will be easier, then the implementation becomes much easier. So in order to have all those things in place, they started standardizing the standards also. In that way, the third edition got standardized. So if you look at ISO 9001, or if you look at ISO 45001, or if you look at ISO 14001, the classes will be more or less same. Anyway, we are going to see in the subsequent slides, but the classes will be more or less same, but the contents will be as per the standards. That is, for environment, the contents will be basically focusing on the environment. For OHSMS, that is 45001, the contents will be focusing on safety, occupational health and safety. For ISO 9000, the contents will be focusing on quality. So like that, the contents will be focusing, but the standard classes will be same. The process of evolving the standards looks very similar. So that is how they merged all the standards. Similarly, you have got this OHSMS, that is Occupational Health and Safety Management System. This system again evolved from BS, British Standards 8800, in the year 1996. Then the first brought OHSAS, we call it as OSHAS, Occupational Health and Safety Assessment Series. So it was published in the year 18,000, OHSAS 18,001 in the year 1999. So again it was part of the British standard only, but ISO adopted the same standard in there, but they haven't put it in their name. So then OHSAS 18,001 got revised in the year 2007. So first edition of ISO 45001 brought in the year 2018. It basically evolved from the OHSAS, that is we call it as OSHAS. OSHAS 18,001 later became ISO 45001. So key highlights of the latest version is structural change to align with the common management framework. That's why I told you. So all standards, they have some common framework. So this OSHAS 18,000 also they made some changes in the OSHAS 18,000 so that it actually aligned with the other standards. The structural change, everything looked similar. So they call it as Annex SL, high level structure. They all sat together and then they framed in such a way that all standards are having the similar pattern. The pattern will be similar. Anyway, we will also see in the subsequent slides what I mean by the similar pattern, same structure, all these things. You will have much more clarity when you look at the further slides. So other key highlights of the latest version is ISO 14015 EMS emphasize the protection of environment and then life cycle perspective. That is another terminology now coming in. Life cycle perspective means we call it as cradle to grave, from cradle to grave. That is from the raw material, whatever that we may be digging the raw material from the earth, or we may be taking from the water or whatever soil, whatever the thing. So from that, or metals, whatever it is, from that to grave. Grave means what? Say for example, let us take a car. We manufacture the car, we are getting materials from various sources. Say for example, there's aluminum and all coming from some place, some metal parts, the castings are made from some place, and then whatever the oils and all manufactured by somebody. You have paints, you have rubber, steels, everything is there. They all coming from different places. They were machined, they were made a lot of modifications made, a lot of rubber products also coming in. for example tires and other things. So everything they bring it in and then they assemble it, and then the car comes out and somebody buys the car. He uses the car maybe for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Countries like India, we love to keep the car for a longer time. So after that, at one stage, we have to discard it. So while discarding, where it goes, that is the grave. It becomes more important. For example, your cell phone. So car maybe the life cycle is more. Your cell phone maybe normally people use a cell phone for 2 years, 3 years, max 4 years. After that they throw it. Where it goes? It has lot of hazardous substances. It has got batteries. It has got lead. It has got so many hazardous things. Those things are need to be properly disposed. Otherwise, that gets contaminated. So those are all the things we call it as life cycle perspective, and that is being brought into the new standard. So the company, for example, a company manufactures a cell phone, they need to be doubly careful how the cell phone is disposed. They have a plan to again recollect the cell phones like that. Now a law is also being made, so you cannot just like that dispose it everything. So you need to give it. These buyback arrangements are like that. For example, it is very very efficiently happening in batteries. You buy a battery, and then normally the dealer will ask, can you give me the old battery so that I'll give you some discount. So he carefully disposes the battery safely. Even in the companies also, they buy batteries for various purposes. When they dispose it, they cannot just like the dispose it. They have to only give back to the dealer, and he has to compulsory buy back the batteries so that he can dispose it off safely. So like that, why battery very specific means battery contains a lot of lead. Those things are very harmful. So these are all the life cycle perspective that now we have a lot of focus on those things. So other key highlights of this latest version is ISO 45001 2018 OHSMS. Now by this time you would have memorized what is OHSMS. It is Occupational Health and Safety Management System. What it emphasizes? It emphasizes to eliminate hazards and reduce occupational health and safety risk. That is OH and S risk. So eliminate hazards and reduce risk. Again, emphasis on consultation participation arrangements. What is this consultation participation? So in this ISO 45001, it is mandatory to have workmen in a committee, and then we need to understand their concerns. We need to take action on that. Similarly, we need to take action on the neighbor. Suppose anybody who the next to our factory, somebody is there, their opinions, their concerns also need to be addressed. So this consultation and participation becomes much more important, because we need to know what others feeling. The workman, suppose if he says that particular machine is very dangerous, we need to understand that, and then we need to take action based on the complaint. So similarly, some neighbor is complaining a lot of noise, we need to take action. These are all the things that is brought into the consultation and participation arrangements. Yes, now this process approach. As I told you, this is based on PDCA based IMS model. What is PDCA? Already I told you. Plan, do, check, act. So we need to plan, and then we need to check, and then we need to act on do, check, and then we need to act on it. So again, this whatever that our standard, it is divided into this plan, do, check, and act. For example, 4.0, we have standards, we have 10 classes, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Classes are there. This class number 4 is context of the organization. That comes under planning. Similarly, you have your do, that is enhancing environmental OHS performance, fulfilling compliance obligations. What is compliance obligations? It is nothing but your regulatory compliance. So you have a lot of acts and rules. So for example, we have in India, we have Factories Act. In Tamil Nadu, we have Tamil Nadu Factory Rules. These factories are, these rules, they specify number of requirements in that. Fulfilling that requirement only we can run a factory in our country. And this fulfilling of requirement also periodically checked. We have factory inspectors, they come once in 6 months or once in a year depending upon their the factory size and their availability, and then they verify whether we are complying with the requirements. So these are all the things that is required. Then performance evaluation, then your improvement. So this cycle continues, it doesn't stop. You do planning, you do, then you actually execute, then you check it, then you act based on the whatever the outcome. Again you plan based on that. So like that cycle keeps on going. Yes, now comes to the classes. As I told you, it consists of 10 classes. The class 1 is scope. What is scope? Scope is nothing but where it is applicable. It is the boundary and then operations. For example, a company is manufacturing batteries. They can say we are manufacturing batteries for the purpose of automotive or whatever it is, and then at so and so location. So that is how the scope comes. Then normative reference is nothing but terms and definitions. You have whatever the terminology used in the standard, they give that what are the definitions for that. Then you have the context of the organization. Context of the organization is nothing but understanding the organization and its context. So now you have in the screen, you can see that on the left side ISO 14001 2005 requirements, on the right side ISO 14001 2018 requirements. Both are looking same only. You should not think that why then there is a different standards. Here on the left side you have context of the organization. On the right side also you have context of the organization. But when you look at understanding the organization and its context, here in ISO 14001 we look at in the environmental perspective. That is, say for example, as I told you, when the factory is located in a place where is there any pollution to the nearby rivers or nearby places, is there any emissions, if the solid waste disposal is as per the requirements. So those are all the organization's requirements. Similarly, in ISO 45001, the organization's contents means if there is a heavy noise from the factory, or if the people have got a lot of injuries, there are a lot of hazardous operations are happening in the plant. Those are all the contests in terms of ISO 40000. That is where the difference comes. So as I told you, ISO standardizes the standards. Each standard, say for example, we are not having ISO 9001 in the screen. If you look at the ISO 9001 on the screen also, it will also have the something similar to this only, this context of the organization, understand the organization and its context. But then how it is done? It is there, it will be only quality. How the quality, the performance of the product and what's the customer expectation in the product, those things are captured in that one. So that is how the standard comes in, that's how the standard is applied actually. See for example, if you look at the 4.2, understand the needs and the expectations of the interested parties. Who are all interested parties? The interested parties may be the actually employees, the management team, union, public also. For example, for ISO 14001, yes, public is also an interested party. Your neighbor is also an interested party. So your shareholders are interested parties. So all these people are interested parties and their needs and expectations, what they need. So for example, a workman is there in the plant. That what that workman's need in the plant. He wants a clean atmosphere for him to work in the plant. So what is the requirement of the management? They want to comply with what are the legal requirements. For example, ISO 14001, if you look at it, we have pollution control board. This pollution control board gives consent orders to operate the plant. They give a lot of conditions. The conditions needs to be fulfilled, and then they periodically check also. They come and check the water quality of the plant. We call it as effluent. See, once the process is completed, some water, contaminated water comes out of that process. That needs to be treated and disposed as per the Pollution Control Board requirements. They publish some standards. According to the standard, the water needs to be discharged. Some factories they give zero discharge. They cannot discharge water at all. They need to recirculate the water. So, for example, in the flushes and all, they circulate the treated water. Even nowadays, in the apartment complexes, it has become mandatory to recycle the water in the flushes and other things. So, those kind of things, and they need to be that's kind of the management team's requirement is fulfilling the legal requirements. What will be the neighbors' requirements? You would like to be a very peaceful factory operating nearby. He doesn't want any smoke coming out of from the factory or any unwanted effluent discharged from the factory, so that it doesn't pollute the land nearby. These are all the understanding the needs and expectations of the interested party for ISO 14001. If you look at ISO 45001, what will be the person, the workman who is working, he wants to go back home safely, the way he came back to the factory. He wants all his hands, fingers, everything to be safe. There are acute, there are chronic. The chronic may be due to continuous exposure to harmful vapors or any harmful environment. Those things need to be periodically checked. So that's what he wants. The management team wants what they want. They want to comply with the legal requirements. Here comes Factories Act and the factory rules. They come into picture. They have a set of requirements. So they want to comply with that. The neighborhood wants a very safe place nearby. They don't want every other day someone gets killed and ambulance coming in, coming out. So this is how understanding the needs and the expectations. Then determining the scope, that's what we told you. Scope means the operation, what is that we are going to do it, and then the area, the boundary. So that is the scope is actually same for all. Whatever the scope you do it for ISO 9001 will be the same scope for ISO 40001 and 45001. Then 4.4 is environmental management system, whereas here in OSHA's, ISO 45001 is OHS management system. Then leadership and commitment. It looks same. ISO 40001, 45001 same only. But here the commitment from the leader is different. It's for environment. Here it is for occupational health and safety. If you look at 5.2, they talk about environmental policy, and in ISO 45001 it talks about OHS policy. What is policy? Policy is nothing but a written document from the top management. So the policy will read like that: we comply with all legal requirement. We continuously work for improvement of our environment and health of the employees. We continuously work for training the employees. So like that set of commitment. It is nothing but the management commits, and that is given in the form of policy. Normally the policy they display it. If you go to any factory, you can find this environmental policy, OHS policy, and quality policy. Many times they combine also. You will see QHSE policy like that, it will be that.